Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm, of course, your host, Untitled Blitz, and in today's video, we are going to be doing, yet again, another comparison video on the channel. Now, it's been a while since I've done one of these, and I figured, you know what? I have never compared the Super Conqueror to the Chieftain Mark VI. Both of them are Tier 10 enriched vehicles, which means they both earn credits, and it costs money to get your hands on them. So, in today's video, I'm going to be doing full down reviews on both of these tanks, playing a battle in each of them, talking about their strengths, their weaknesses, armor profiles, and as well, which of these two tanks I enjoy playing personally more. Now, of course, if you guys have your own personal opinions, which probably most of you do, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you like the Chieftain Mark VI or the Super Conqueror? Now, I think both of them are actually really fun to play, so I'm going to say right off the bat, both of these tanks I enjoy very, very much. I'm doing very well in both of them statistically, and I think they're just fun vehicles to play. So whatever I say in the end, take it with a grain of salt. I like both of them quite a bit. But we're going to be starting off with the Super Conqueror. Let's start off with the gun. Well, it's got a decent aiming time. It's 4.1 seconds. But a fun fact about this vehicle that most people don't know is that it has the best on-movement dispersion in the game. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what on-movement dispersion is, because it doesn't really tell you in the in-game statistics, if you ever look at a website like Blitz Stars or Blitz Hanger, there's a hidden value which is massively depending on how the vehicle performs. Now, the way on-movement dispersion works is when you turn the gun, if you ever move it to the left or the right, up, down, your gun will bloom. And depending how bad or good your on-movement dispersion value is, it will bloom varyingly. This vehicle has the best on-movement dispersion for Tier 10 heavies, I said. So what that means is that when you actually move this gun around a lot, it doesn't bloom. It's more like a medium tank. So that means that the aiming time is actually fantastic. And as well, I'm running refined gun on this vehicle, making the dispersion from what was 0.362 or something terrible down to 0.318, making it just on par with your average Tier 10 heavy tank like the T110E5. So it's actually quite an accurate gun if you run it correct on equipment. And if you'd like to see my equipment loadout, well, I guess you can just pause it really quick, and this is what I'm personally running on it. Now, back to what I was saying, the gun has 2,651 damage per minute, which is pretty solid, judging that if you're running rammer, because of course I love calibrated, you'll be sitting at around 2,850 damage per minute. It's got 272 millimeters of standard penetration, which is about standard for most Tier 10 heavy tanks, and 342 millimeters of premium penetration. Now, that doesn't sound amazing when you compare it to an IS-4 or a Kranvang. However, the thing you do need to know is that APCR has shell normalization, so actually you should add about 20 millimeters of pen. I'd say the penetration on this is actually better for getting through a lot of angles like the upper plate of an IS-4 or a lot of spaced armor. APCR is way better for going through spaced armor than heat is. So I actually like APCR better as a premium ammunition than heat ammunition, but there are also drawbacks. While it's a much faster shell than heat, it has much more shell drop penetration over distance. Now, the HE on this tank is High Explosive Squash Head, otherwise known as HESH, and it has 121 millimeters of penetration, dealing 515 damage per shot. Pretty dang sweet there, but of course the standard damage is sitting just about average for your Tier 10 heavies at 400 per shot. Now, very similarly to the Chieftain Mark VI, this vehicle sits at 10 degrees of gun depression, and if we were to take a look at the armor on this vehicle, it's pretty dang solid. The upper plate is 320 millimeters thick. And a really cool fact about it is, as you can see here, there's an actual bar of spaced armor on it. You can see it too if we were to look at the vehicle in the garage. You can see that bar right here of spaced armor. Now, what that means is that if you actually shoot heat at that, you cannot penetrate the upper plate, making this vehicle extremely resistant to high explosive ammunition and heat shells, which is a high explosive anti-tank. So very good there. But it does have a very weak lower plate, only about 150 millimeters thick. Now, fully haul down, this vehicle, yeah, you're never going to penetrate that upper plate. And the turret as well, very, very thick. You can see it's got spaced armor all over the front of the turret, meaning that you cannot penetrate heat very easily on it. I still have been, but you need a lot of heat penetration at that. And even if you're using premium ammunition, you can see that upper part of the turret's very, very troll. You've got this little itty bitty bar down here, which is about 280 millimeters thick. But overall, the armor on the Super Conqueror is very, very thick, and you'll get a lot of bounces on it, as long as luck does play well for you. There have been many times where people have shot at the upper plate, and it's actually ricocheted into the bar here. As well, you can penetrate this part up here. It's very troll, but you can get some penetrations on this teeny bitty bitty bar. I normally don't really go for that, though, as it's very tricky. Now, the side armor on this tank, very weak, only about 102 millimeters thick, and the rear at 40 millimeters millimeters, yeah, it's quite easy to penetrate. If we swap over to the Chieftain Mark 6, though, it's a much different story. The Mark 6 hull down is fantastic. And even on flat ground, that upper plate is all auto ricochets because, of course, APCR struggles a lot to get through very, very steep angles. It'll just ricochet right off. So you can see here that APCR can't penetrate the upper plate of the Mark 6 because it's all a super, super steep angle. Especially when you're hull down, this turret is very, very thick, being able to ricochet basically any shells coming at it. But this vehicle does have a very big weak spot. The first one is this cupola. That whole thing is a very easy penetration. And in fact, if you have Hess shells from a Chieftain Mark 6, you can actually penetrate that weak spot very, very easily with even high explosive ammunition. This vehicle also has extremely weak side armor, only 55 millimeters thick. That means that a lot of high explosive ammunition, especially from 120 plus millimeters, are actually going to penetrate the side, the rear of the vehicle's turret, basically everything. Very weak tank, and even the lower plate is quite weak as well, at only 110 millimeters thick, and as well, it's got a weak turret if you're on flat ground, at only 288. So clearly we can see that the Chieftain Mark 6 has much weaker armor. But that makes sense, because this is a frontline heavy that is not nearly as fast when it only goes 36 kilometers per hour at top speed, with a much worse power-to-weight ratio of 14.4, compared to the Chieftain Mark 6 16.0 with a top speed of 42 kilometers per hour. Also, the Mark 6, when we get into it, has a much better gun for basically any scenario. So of course, let's get into a battle with the Super Conqueror, saying how it can personally perform. Now, what I'm very excited to see is after the heavy tank nerf, how much stronger will the Super Conqueror be? Now, as I did say before, or not today's video, but before in the past on videos, the heavy tank nerfs, while I think they're going to be impactful on certain tanks, like the T-110E5, yeah, that vehicle, oh boy, that thing's going to get hit quite hard. But a vehicle like the IS-4, or a vehicle like the, what else do we have, the Kanandong, I don't really think that's going to make too much of a difference on the vehicle's overall performance. So here we go, we've got 3 heavy tanks on the enemy team, all tier 9. And then we've got all tier 10 tank destroyers, and we've got all tier 10 tank destroyers apart from me and the Super Conqueror. I don't really know what to say about this, but yes, I'm going to be pushing my heavy tank towards this position. Hopefully, my team is going to follow suit. Now, the Super Conqueror is very good in being a full-on brawling tank. Because it's got good DPM, especially more than most tier 10 heavies, you can actually trade very easily with them, and it's quite accurate on the gun, as I did say before. That on-movement dispersion barely even blooming. Now I'm going to wiggle this tank. There you go. Heat shell not even cutting straight through my armor. That is a 183 off to the side, but we're going to get a snap into this guy before that 183 is even able to aim at my vehicle. Now we got the M103 off to the other position, and we've got this Kampfpanzer here who is a little worried. It looks like, boom, another nice pen, but oh, there you go. As I did say, this thing does have that turret weak spot, and that was a perfect representation of my turret being a weak spot right there. Now, the enemy team's got a lot of tanks all over the map, and I don't want to be, of course, hit by that enemy FE2 5B183. Let's aim in on him, though. Boom! Max roll for 500. That's what I'm talking about. I don't think that guy enjoyed that all too much, and actually he's dead. Now we've got like the M103 over here. There's a nice tap into him. A lot of people actually try to aim at that turret weak spot, but as you can see, it's a very, very troll position to actually penetrate. There's another nice tap into the M103, and now we are going to angle this vehicle up. Again, this guy, he's probably not enjoying trying to aim at my vehicle's weak spots, but he actually did penetrate it. I'll give him credit. Again, going through that turret. You saw an Armor Inspector. It's a very tricky pen, but you can get through it as long as you know what you're doing. Now, hopefully this K91 is going to give me some room to work here, so let's squeeze our way on past. Maybe get a nice tap into this 183. There you go. Another max roll on these 183s. Man, we're getting some really high rolls. And with that, we are sitting over 3,000 damage. Now we got the E75 over here. Another nice bounce on this vehicle, straight on that super troll part. That actually looks like the lower plate. But believe it or not, that's actually part of the upper plate. Now we're going to aim in on this Hori here. Get a Hess shell in. Boom. 469. And now again, we're going to start reloading here. Now hopefully this 183 is not going to ruin this guy's day just yet, as I'd like to get a tap in. Boom. There you go. And with that, pretty solid game for the Super Conqueror. 4,608 damage. And yeah, very easy, as you can see, to bully other tanks. While the armor didn't work out 100% there, the thing about the Super Conqueror is that it's still got that gun to keep up ripping into enemy opponents. You'll notice the gun barely missed any shots because, of course, it is a frontline heavy tank. It's not too hard to hit those easy shots there. So yeah, we got some nice rolls into the Kampfpanzer. Actually, no, we didn't. Wow, those are 3 really low rolls. 3 shots and only did 1,041 damage. But hey, we got some pretty nice rolls into those 2 183s, both dealing 500 damage per shot. We got the M103 shot for 1192, E75 for 906, and the rear of that Hori for even a low roll at 469. So yeah, the Super Conqueror did a fantastic job. The armor got a lot of troll bounces. A lot of people actually think that this here is part of the lower plate, but it's actually not. It's this, because as I said before, that's all spaced armor. So yeah, the Super Conqueror, very good on the armor. Now we're moving on to the Chieftain Mark 6, a vehicle that is more suited to the medium roll playstyle. It can actually do pseudo. If you're on a map like Fort Despair, I'm going to be placing this thing on the heavy route, same for Canyon. But there's also maps like Alpenstadt where it's very hard to know which way to go. You can push it heavy, but you can also do the medium route. Now, as I said, this is more mobile, going upwards of 42 kilometers per hour, and it usually reaches that top speed. It's very, very quick. As well, the gun with only 2.8 seconds aiming time, almost half of the Super Conquerors, and Dispersion, which is also even better, and I'm not even running Refined Gun. If I was to run Refined Gun on this vehicle, it's 0.277, so this gun is way more accurate than the Super Conqueror. I always say, even when this tank first came out, this is the best gun in tier 10 as a heavy tank. It's got 400 damage per shot, the same HESH penetration as the Super Conqueror, so that's fantastic. Easy high explosive penetrations on a lot of opponents, 10 degrees of gun depression, and its standard pen at 273 is still very, very nice. And the premium penetration of 326, well, it's not nearly as good as the Super Conqueror's 400, or not 4, imagine if it was 400, but no, 340, but it's still pretty good at 326. It'll pen most tier 10 heavy tanks you're aiming at. But as I said, this vehicle's not always meant to brawl with those big bad heavies, so it's still better than, like the IS-7, and the IS-7 can quite easily penetrate an E-100's turret, so I'm not worried about the pen whenever I'm in a battle, but there are certain times when it can become a little bit of a nuisance, like mouse turret cheeks and stuff like that. Now, they damage permanent at 2,945, and if you decide to run rammer, it's 3,167, and after the FE 2-5B is going to be receiving its nerf, it's going to be way worse on DPM, the 2-5B, and this will be the ultimate king of DPM apart from the WZ-113. So again, let's of course get into another battle. Now, as you saw before, the Super Conqueror is very good at doing aggressive playstyles. The Chieftain Mark 6 is not like that. It's a lightly armored heavy tank, and it does have very strong frontal armor hull down, but that's it. It really can't do anything else. I almost play this thing like an STB-1, because that's sort of how the suited playstyle is. So on this battle, we're going to go towards the medium route. I could go the heavy route, but they got 3 tier 10 tank destroyers, the Hori, a Grill, and an FE 2-5B 183. And those are possibly the deadliest clump of tank destroyers you can think of. One's got accuracy, one's got penetration, and one's got alpha. Yeah, I don't want to poke that spot at all. Now, as I did say, the mobility is very good. We're easily ranging upwards of 35 kilometers per hour here. And now that we're on flat ground, 39, 40 kilometers per hour. So very good on the mobility. You can see here that the gun's very accurate as well. But what's surprising is that it's actually got about the same bloom as we did say before, the Super Conqueror, because the Super Conqueror actually is better on movement dispersion. So here we go. We're pushing our way on up. I'm not sure exactly where the enemy heavy tanks are going to go, but we're going to try and clear vehicles like the Sheridan right out of the battlefield. And, actually, we got a T-57 Heavy off to the side. Maybe we can get a nice tap into him. Aiming, and yeet! Now, there is that fantastic shell velocity. One thing a lot of people don't know is that this vehicle has some of the best shell velocity in Tier 10, especially for a heavy tank. That is just what I love so much about this tank, is the gun is so incredibly accurate, especially with that shell velocity. So there you go. One of my teammates is already dead, but looks like their tank is going to be dead too. Yeah, that 121B not doing all too well. Now my Foch got a shot into him, and same for me. Are we going to receive another? Doesn't look like it just yet. I'm going to try and get over this spot. This is where I'd like to be, which would be very, very nice. I'm thinking that the tank that shot me was the T-57 Heavy, as it hit my Foch as well, but now this is where HESH comes into play. Boom! 473 damage there, and I don't really think that... Oh, wow. Okay, no, I guess I'm just going to get tapped right in the dome. As I did say before, that is a weak spot. Let's go again. Boom! 542, but again, he went right into the dome of my vehicle. That is a very, very big weak spot. And now the Sheridan's easily just poking me. Again, that's the issue with a vehicle like this, is the armor. You really can't... Like, that guy went right through my side. And that's the issue with the real Mark 6 is that its armor just really, really struggles. Now, this guy here, the issue I'm a little worried about is that my Commander's Hatch, which has been tapped twice in already, is going to get hit more. I don't exactly know where all of their tanks are. Oh, there's a Hori. Thank God we bounced that one. Let's get a nice premium shell into the Hori and back on up. Hopefully we might be able to get one more in. I know that I've got very good DPM, so let's see if we can get another shot into that Hori. Boom, there you go. But, yeah, there he goes, right through my frontal armor. So we're not too healthy on hit points anymore. We're sitting at, yeah, 240, not the most, and with that, yeah, this battle, it's tricky. It's a very, very tricky game at that. Now, I don't know exactly what that Hori has in mind, if he's going to continue on backing up, or he's going to stay there. This Foch, hopefully he's going to get a nice shot in, and this Hori's just going to keep on backing up, but it doesn't actually look like that's the Hori's plan right now. He's just going to sit there and take it. Okay, well, there goes the Hori. We got the FV2 5B183 left, and we know the grill is somewhere right in mid. So we're going to see maybe if I can get an actual nice HE shell onto the 183. Come on, aiming. Fire! Oh, baby, 573. And with that, we broke a pretty solid amount of damage. There's the grill 15. Let's aim another Hess shell in. Boom, 644. Like, that's where the amazing gun comes into handling. And with that, we broke 4,000 damage. So again, you can clearly see the stark differences between the Chieftain Mark 6 and the Super Conqueror. The Super Conqueror seems like it did better, but the thing you got to keep in mind is that, as I said before, this is more of a heavily armored brawling tank against mediums. And against medium armored vehicles, we do very well. That Sheridan, even though it did get one shell into us, we easily would have ripped back into. We took 435 off that guy, 1,015 off the AIM-X50B with 2 shells. We got really unlucky. I'm going to be honest, that AIM-X50B hitting both of those weak spots 2 shots in a row is basically unheard of. So don't really think of that AIM-X50B hitting those shots as a normal thing. The Sheridan, yeah, that guy expected to go right through my side, but hey, we did get a 500 roll back into him. We got 807 off the Hori. We got 573 in 1 shell off the 183, and 644 off that Grill 15. That guy, I don't know why you would not run, well, I guess that's why you wouldn't run Spaliner, but yeah, that is the Mark 6. Both vehicles, as you can see, were able to do very well in both of their environments. Now, personally, I enjoy playing the Super Conqueror more. I just think it's a more enjoyable tank because you can be more aggressive, and this tank is more forgiving. You get a lot of bounces on the upper plate, the turret's got very strong armor, and the tank just looks so nice. I've been wanting this tank to come into the game ever since it came out on PC, so that's why I personally love this tank. I'm a little bit biased towards it, but the Super Conqueror is still an incredibly strong vehicle, and I still vouch that this is the best tier 10 heavy tank gun in the game. Let me know which tank you guys like more. Now, as I said before, I think both of these vehicles are very strong. You saw both games are great, and you know, my Super Conqueror was my first tier 10 premium, and with that, I'm sitting at 70% win rate with 700 battles in it. Like, the Super Conqueror is basically very similar at 69 or 71% with a 3,176 average damage, and this vehicle sitting at 3,053. So overall, both are very similar. Both are great tanks. Let me know what you guys think about them in the comments down below. Hopefully, you enjoyed today's video, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.